There is a particular kind of man who makes institutions run without ever appearing in their history. He is not the one whose name gets engraved. He is not the one who stands at the front during ceremonies, chin raised, chest out, waiting for the photographer to find him. He does not file commendation requests or remind his superiors of what he has done. He simply arrives, he works, he leaves, and the place functions better for having had him in it, even if no one can quite explain why. Tariq was that man. I worked alongside him for 4 years at Buckingham Palace before I understood what I was actually looking at. And even then, I am not sure I fully understood. I only knew what I had seen. And what I had seen was enough to change how I thought about duty, about loyalty, and about the strange, silent intelligence that lives in men who have given themselves completely to a place. He had been there 11 years when I arrived. He was not tall. He was not imposing in the way that palace guards are sometimes expected to be imposing. He had dark eyes that moved slowly, the way a man's eyes move when he has learned that most things do not require urgency. He wore his uniform the way a carpenter wears his tools, not for appearance, but because it was the right instrument for the work ahead. His name was Tariq Hassan. He was from Leeds originally. He had served 2 years in the army before joining the household division, and from there he had been stationed at the palace for over a decade. He had never been promoted beyond his current grade. He had never, as far as anyone knew, applied for promotion. He had no particular reputation for brilliance, no stories of heroism attached to his name, no moment of recorded glory. What he had instead was something quieter, and in the end, far more unsettling to the people around him. He always knew. Not in a dramatic way, not the way a prophet knows, standing at the edge of a field with fire in his eyes. He knew the way water knows to run downhill, naturally, without announcement, without effort that anyone could see. I noticed it first on a Tuesday in October, about 3 weeks into my posting. The senior duty officer that morning was a man named Gerald Whitmore, 40 years of service, a voice like gravel rolling in a tin, and a complete intolerance for anything that had not been done exactly as prescribed. Gerald ran the morning briefing at 6:45, and the briefing covered every task assigned to every guard for the day. Corridor rotations, ceremonial positions, vehicle checks, gate logs. It was a long list, and Gerald delivered it the same way every morning, slowly, completely, with the weight of a man who believed that the spoken word was the only valid form of instruction. That morning, Gerald reached item 7 on the list. The East Service Corridor, he said, needed to be cleared of the equipment left by the maintenance team the previous evening. It had been flagged as a potential obstruction for the 11 o'clock walkthrough. Someone would need to move the trolleys and stack the crates against the far wall before 10. Gerald looked up from his clipboard. He looked at the list of names in front of him. He was about to assign the task. Then his radio crackled. One of the overnight staff reported that the East Service Corridor had already been cleared, trolleys moved, crates stacked, passage unobstructed. Gerald looked at the radio, then at his clipboard, then at the room. Nobody said anything. He moved to item 8. I looked across the briefing room at Tariq, who was standing with his hands behind his back, eyes forward, expression entirely neutral. He did not look satisfied. He did not look like a man waiting to be noticed. He looked like a man who had done something unremarkable and was ready for whatever came next. I almost said something. I decided not to. Over the following weeks, it happened again. And again. The pattern was never dramatic. It was never the kind of thing that made someone stop and shout. It was always small, a corridor cleared, a vehicle checked, a flag at half-mast before the official word came down, a set of barriers arranged along a route that had not yet been formally announced. Each time the task was complete. Each time no one had assigned it. Each time Tariq had simply done it. I began paying attention. What I noticed was this: Tariq did not move randomly. He was not wandering the palace completing tasks at whim. He watched. He listened. Not eavesdropping, nothing so deliberate as that. He simply absorbed. He noticed which vehicles had been serviced and which had not. He noticed the subtle shift in the housekeeper's schedule that meant a visiting dignitary was expected. He noticed the way the flagpole crew lingered near the base longer than usual on certain mornings. He noticed the delivery schedules, the flower arrangements, the particular way the head of protocol walked when something ceremonial was imminent. He read the palace the way an old sailor reads the sea. Not by consulting charts, by knowing it. And from those small, silent readings he acted, quietly, completely, without any instruction from above. The other guards noticed too, eventually. Not all of them were comfortable with it. There was a younger guard named Danny who openly found it irritating, not because Tariq was doing anything wrong, but because it made the rest of them look like they were standing still while he was already 3 steps ahead. Danny once said, loudly enough for several people to hear, that Tariq must be reading the private schedule somehow, that there was no other explanation. Nobody agreed with him out loud, but nobody disagreed either. And that discomfort, that quiet, unspoken unease, was what eventually reached the desk of Marcus Ellery. Marcus was deputy head of palace operations. He had been in the role for 6 years, and he ran it with the precision of a man who believed that every system had a correct answer, and that correct answers could always be found if you applied sufficient process. He was not unkind. He was not unreasonable, but he was deeply, professionally uncomfortable with things he could not explain within the framework he had built. Tariq had become one of those things. The file that landed on Marcus's desk in late November was thin, 3 pages, a log of 17 instances across 4 months in which duties had been completed before being formally assigned. The instances were cross-referenced with Tariq's patrol logs, his shift times, and his access records. In every case, Tariq had been present in the relevant area before the task was completed. In every case, no written or radio instruction had preceded the completion. Marcus read the file twice, then he closed it, then he opened it again. He called his assistant and asked her to begin a quiet review. The review was not supposed to be obvious. Marcus had done this kind of thing before, quiet internal checks on staff whose behavior had drifted outside the expected boundaries. It was standard procedure, handled carefully, designed to generate answers without generating alarm. The idea was to observe before confronting, to understand the mechanism before dismantling it. What Marcus had not counted on was Tariq. The first stage of the review involved cross-checking Tariq's access records against the classified operations schedule, the internal document that listed upcoming ceremonial events, dignitary visits, and protocol requirements weeks in advance. If Tariq was completing tasks ahead of assignment, the simplest explanation was that he had somehow accessed this document and was working from it privately. The access logs showed nothing. Tariq had never opened the operations schedule, not once, not from any terminal, any device, or any authorized login in 11 years of service. Marcus noted this and moved to the second stage. The second stage involved asking questions, not of Tariq directly, not yet, of the people around him, his shift supervisors, his rotation partners, the housekeeping staff who sometimes worked adjacent to his corridors. The approach was casual, embedded in routine conversations, designed to surface any information about Tariq that had not made it into official records. What Marcus heard was consistent, quiet man, reliable, never late, never loud, gets along with everyone, doesn't talk much about himself, always seems to know where he needs to be. That last phrase appeared 4 times across 6 conversations. Always seems to know where he needs to be. Marcus wrote it down. He underlined it once. The third stage was a test. It was Marcus's own design, and he was quietly proud of it. The idea was simple: introduce a false task. Plant a fabricated duty into the informal channel, the kind of loose, conversational instruction that sometimes moved between senior staff members as a precursor to official assignment. If Tariq was somehow intercepting real instructions, he would not act on the false one, because it would never become real. If he was accessing the classified schedule, the false task would not appear there either. The test would tell Marcus which channel Tariq was actually using. The false task was a vehicle inspection, a specific car in the North Courtyard, a routine check that did not exist on any real schedule, mentioned casually by a senior steward who had been briefed by Marcus to drop it into conversation near Tariq's patrol area. Marcus waited. The vehicle was not inspected. He tried again 2 days later with a different false task, a barrier arrangement on the west approach that had no basis in any real upcoming event. The barriers were not moved. Marcus sat with this for a long time. The false tasks were ignored. The real ones kept getting done. He pulled the operations log for the previous 6 weeks and went through it line by line, cross-referencing every completed early task with the actual events that followed. The East Corridor clearance had preceded a last-minute change in the morning walkthrough route, a change decided by the head of household at 9:45, well after Tariq had cleared the corridor at 7. The flag at half-mast had preceded an official announcement of mourning by 4 hours. The barrier arrangement on the south front had preceded a security rerouting that was not finalized until 2 days after the barriers appeared. In every case, Tariq had been right. Not approximately right, precisely right. Marcus called his assistant again and told her to schedule a direct meeting with Tariq Hassan for the following Thursday. Private, informal, no other staff present. Conference Room C, which was small and plain and deliberately unglamorous. The kind of room that communicated this is not a celebration without having to say it. He spent the days before the meeting constructing his questions. He wanted to understand the mechanism. That was all. He was not, he told himself, approaching this with any predetermined conclusion. He simply needed to understand how a palace guard with no access to classified information and no apparent network of informants was consistently completing duties before they were assigned. There had to be a system. There had to be a source. Things did not simply happen because a man felt them coming. That was not how institutions worked. I heard about the meeting from Gerald, who had heard about it from the assistant who had scheduled it. Gerald told me with the flat, expressionless delivery of a man reporting whether no editorial, no alarm, just the fact of it. Tariq was being called in. Marcus wanted answers. I thought about saying something to Tariq before Thursday. I considered it genuinely. We were not close friends. Tariq was not a man who collected close friends, but we had worked enough shared shifts that there was a mutual ease between us. I could have warned him, told him what was coming, given him time to prepare. I did not in the end. Not because I was indifferent, but because I suspected somehow that Tariq already knew. Thursday came. Tariq arrived at Conference Room C at precisely the scheduled time in full uniform and sat down across from Marcus with the same unhurried stillness he brought to every corridor, every post, every morning briefing. Marcus's assistant offered tea. Tariq accepted. Marcus declined. Marcus opened with procedure. He explained the review. He outlined the instances, all 17 of them, without accusation, in the measured language of a man presenting data. He noted the access log checks. He described the false task tests and their results. He laid everything on the table with the careful neutrality of someone who genuinely wanted to understand rather than convict. Then he asked his question. How? Marcus said, "Do you know?" The room was quiet for a moment. Tariq looked at his tea. He turned the cup slightly on the saucer, not nervously, just thoughtfully, the way a man turns a problem over in his mind before deciding how to answer it. Then he looked up at Marcus, and he told him what Tariq said was not what Marcus expected. It was not a confession of unauthorized access. It was not a technical explanation involving schedules or informants or any system that Marcus could map onto a process diagram and file under resolved. It was quieter than that, and because it was quieter, it took Marcus longer to absorb. Tarek said, "I watched the building." Marcus waited for more. Tarek continued, in the same unhurried voice he used for everything. He said that the palace spoke if you were willing to listen long enough to learn its language, not in words, not in anything written down, in patterns, in the way certain staff members moved on certain mornings, in the change of routine among the housekeeping team when a dignitary visit was approaching, the extra polish on the second-floor banisters, the particular sequence of room checks, the slight shift in the head housekeeper's route that always preceded the same category of event, in the way the florist worked when something ceremonial was within 48 hours, choosing specific colors and arrangements that only appeared for occasions of a certain weight, in the way the vehicle pool was organized on quiet mornings versus the mornings before something was about to happen. The specific cars moved to the front, the others pushed back, the quiet activity of the mechanics that meant readiness rather than maintenance. He said he had not learned any of this deliberately. He had simply been there long enough that the building had become legible to him. The way a street becomes legible to a man who has walked it every day for a decade, not because he studied it, but because his feet know it. He said that when the corridor needed clearing, he knew it needed clearing because he had seen the change in the walkthrough team's morning schedule, and he knew from years of similar mornings what that change meant. He said that when the flag needed lowering, he had heard, not in any private briefing, but in the particular silence that fell over a certain wing of the palace on those mornings, a silence he had come to recognize the way you recognize the silence before rain. He said, "I have never read a schedule I was not cleared to read. I have never been told anything I was not supposed to be told. I have simply paid attention for 11 years, and the building has told me what it needs." Marcus was quiet for a long time. He had his notepad in front of him and he had not written anything on it since the meeting began. He looked at it now. He looked at the clean, blank page. He looked at the pen in his hand, which had not moved. He put the pen down. He asked Tarek one more question. He asked, "Why have you never told anyone?" Tarek looked at him with an expression that was not quite surprise and not quite patience. It was something between the two, the look of a man who has been asked a question whose answer seems, to him, self-evident, but who understands that to others it may not be. He said, "It is not the kind of thing you explain. You either see it or you don't. And if you have to explain it, the explanation sounds like something it isn't." Marcus understood immediately what he meant. He had spent 2 weeks constructing an investigation around exactly that misreading. He had looked at Tarek's behavior and seen, from the outside, what appeared to be a procedural violation, someone operating outside the system, working from information he should not have had, completing tasks without authorization. What it actually was the deepest possible form of institutional knowledge, not the kind stored in files or manuals or briefing rooms. The kind stored in a man who had spent 11 years paying complete, unbroken attention to a place he cared about. Marcus closed his notepad. He thanked Tarek for his time. Tarek stood, adjusted his jacket and walked to the door. He paused, not turning back, and said one last thing, not loudly, not with any particular emphasis, just as a statement of fact from a man who had nothing to prove. He said, "The South Garden Gate hinges need oil. Someone will notice by end of week. Better to do it before it becomes a report." Then he left. Marcus sat in conference room C for a while after Tarek was gone. He did not immediately return to his desk. He did not call his assistant. He sat with the notepad in front of him and the blank page and the pen he had not used, and he thought about the question of what duty actually was. He had spent his career inside a very particular answer to that question. Duty was assignment. Duty was the task on the list, the order from the supervisor. The box ticked after the instruction was given and the action was completed. That was the architecture of the institution he worked inside, and it was not wrong. It was necessary. Institutions could not function on instinct alone. But it was not the complete answer either. What Tariq had described, what Tariq had been living quietly for 11 years, was something that existed before the assignment. Something that the assignment was, in a sense, trying to catch up to. A man who had given himself so completely to a place that the place's needs had become his own. Who did not wait for permission to care, because caring was not the kind of thing that waited for permission. Marcus thought about the flag at half-mast, 4 hours before the announcement. Tariq had lowered it because he had felt the morning's particular silence and known what it meant. And when the announcement came, the flag was already where it needed to be. The institution had spoken correctly. The moment had been honored. No one had thought to ask how. He thought about the East Corridor, the barriers, the vehicles, every small, invisible act of preparation that had made the palace run smoothly in ways it had not fully understood were happening. He thought about 11 years. He thought about what it cost a man to give 11 years of that quality of attention to something, and to ask nothing in return. No recognition, no promotion, no record of it anywhere. Just the work done because it needed doing, and a man who had understood that need before anyone else had thought to name it. He picked up the pen. He opened the notepad to a fresh page. He wrote South Garden Gate hinges, oil before end of week. He underlined it once. Then he wrote something else underneath it, in smaller letters, the kind of writing a man does for himself rather than for any official record. He wrote review closed, no violation, no system breach, no further action required. He paused. Then he added below that, recommend commendation for sustained operational excellence. He looked at the words for a moment. Then he crossed out the last line. Not because Tariq did not deserve it, but because he understood now that a commendation was not the language of the thing he was looking at. Tariq had not spent 11 years waiting for a commendation. He had not spent 11 years building toward a record or a ceremony or a moment of institutional recognition. He had spent 11 years learning a building and serving it, and the service was its own completeness, and it did not require the addition of a certificate to become real. What Marcus could do, what felt to him like the appropriate response, was simply to see it, to know it had happened, to carry that knowledge and let it change, quietly, how he thought about the people who worked in the corridors beneath him. He closed the notepad. He stood up. He went to his office and looked up the maintenance schedule for the South Garden Gate. The last service record showed 14 months ago. He put in the request himself. Routine maintenance. No urgency noted. No explanation given for the timing. It was done the next morning. The hinge worked quietly after that. No one filed a report. No one noticed the improvement except the people who used the gate every day, and they noticed only in the way you noticed the absence of an irritation you had grown so used to that you had forgotten it was there. 3 weeks later, I heard from Gerald that Marcus had quietly updated Tariq's staff record. No promotion, no formal commendation, just a note added to the file in the section reserved for senior officer observations. The note said, demonstrates exceptional situational awareness and institutional commitment, asset to operations. Gerald told me this with the same flat delivery he used for everything, and then he went back to his clipboard. I thought about telling Tariq. I decided against it. He would not have been interested in what was written in a file. He would already be somewhere in the building, moving through a corridor, noticing what needed to be noticed, doing what needed to be done. I walked my rotation that afternoon and I tried, for the first time with any deliberateness, to do what Tariq did, to watch, to listen to the building rather than waiting for the building to speak through someone else's voice, to let 11 years of other people's instructions become, at least for one afternoon, something I had felt before I had been told. I was not very good at it, but I was better than I had been in the morning. And I thought that was probably how it started for men like Tarek, not with a gift, not with a special access or a secret knowledge, just with the decision made quietly and renewed every single day to pay attention, to care before being told to care, to arrive at the duty before the duty arrived on a clipboard. There is a particular kind of man who makes institutions run without ever appearing in their history. You will not find Tariq Hassan in any official record of the palace. His name does not appear on any commendation list. There is no photograph of him receiving anything, no ceremony, no moment of formal recognition laid out for the cameras and the archive. But the East Corridor was cleared before it needed to be cleared. The flag was at half-mast before the announcement came. The vehicles were where they needed to be. The barriers were right. The gate worked quietly. The place was cared for. And somewhere in the building, a man who had given 11 years to learning its language was walking his rotation, watching, listening, reading the particular silence of a Tuesday morning and knowing, not from any schedule, not from any instruction, but from the deep, accumulated intelligence of a man who had chosen to be present, what the building would need next. He would do it before anyone asked. He would do it without waiting to be thanked. He would do it because that was what duty had always been, underneath all the clipboards and the briefing rooms and the morning assignments and the forms filed in triplicate. Not the task you are given. The one you already know is yours.